All right, so we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to HED Talks. HED Talks. We're in the middle of a wonderful series. I'm loving this series. What do you think? We're doing Great Women in History. Do you agree?
Yes.
It's been really interesting, and our last meeting was pretty emotional, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Who remembers who we talked about last time? And Frank. Yeah, that was very difficult to get through, but important to remember. Okay. So today, in the next in our series, we're going to be talking about somebody truly inspirational. Do you know who we're talking about? Yes. You've got it. Yes, we're talking about Amelia Earhart. But you know, before we get there, I thought it might be interesting. I thought you might like to know, the history of aviation, because it has a truly fascinating history. I'm sure it goes way back to prehistoric times, but the only sketches that I could get, the only blueprints I could get were from Leonardo da Vinci.
Right.
Right? Do you remember? Yeah, so Leonardo da Vinci, during the Renaissance, he actually drew designs. He was an inventor as well as he did everything, actually. And what does that look like? Yes, yeah, that was Leonardo da Vinci. And then what does this look like? Yeah, so way back then. I think the dream of flying has always been with us. Now, it has been so steeped in our DNA, I think, this desire to fly. It's got to be the reason why we've just never given up on it, even though it has not been easy.
Whoa, what was that?
I know, that's too loud. Hold
Oh, you broke the sound barrier.
on. I broke the sound barrier, yes.
I like that. Looks like the moth that's been around my living room. That looked like a right place to go.
He's okay, he's okay.
I know. Don't you know the birds are up there going, what the heck is this?
Oh, look at this one, I love this one.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is good. Kick him in the butt.
Tired.
Dear Lord. Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, what is that?
Oh, they want to do it like birds.
We got some problems here.
They're on fire.
Here comes the fire brigade.
Oh, geez.
Oh, they got him out.
Got them out.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Well, the desire's there, the ability not so much.
Well, I thought you might enjoy seeing the trial and error that we have been through.
I have an idea how far back they go in years.
Well, all of these, so photography was we only got photography in like in the 1880s.
Okay.
And then film we got in the very late 1800s. So these are like the really at the turn of the century.
Okay.
So that's the time frame that we're looking at here. But we can be very thankful, I guess, that we never gave up.
No.
We never gave up, no matter how injurious it was for man to pursue flight. Because eventually, these guys come along, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so Pat, there you go. Here we are in 1903.
Yeah.
1903. And so who are these guys?
They're the Wright brothers.
Exactly. And what did they do?
They were the first ones to
They
fly.
lived in Ohio and went to
bicycle
Earhart
shop.
and
They had, yeah, they had bicycle shop.
108 feet.
Yeah, let's take a look at what they did. We're going to take, this is actual footage. We're going to take a look at just what they managed to do.
First flight, 1903.
the first successful flight. Oh my gosh, after all of those other things.
No flapping wings involved.
Yeah, no, yes, oh my gosh. So this is the world that Amelia Earhart is born into. This is the kind of changing, exciting times that she's coming into. She's born Amelia Mary Earhart on July 24th, 1897. Her parents, these are her parents, Amy, actually the mother's name is Amelia, it's Amy for sure, they call her Amy. Amy and Edwin Earhart, and this is their wedding photo. It looks very nice, doesn't it? In fact, this seems like, on the surface, it seems like a really good match, but beneath the surface, there's some problems. All right, so there's some problems in the marriage. The father, Edwin, he's actually a very brilliant man. He's trained as a lawyer. He is incredibly articulate. He has an outstanding command of the English language. So in all reality, he should be doing very well for himself. You know, he's from a fairly well-to-do family, and so is Amy. She's from a well-off family also. So it should be that these people have a good life, right?
Yep.
But there's a problem. There's a problem. Edwin has a problem. Any guesses?
Mental illness?
Yes, alcoholism. He
Oh, I was just gonna say that as well.
yes, he is an alcoholic. It's not that he doesn't love his family, he does, and he tries. He cannot overcome his alcoholism. And he loves his wife, he loves his children, but he just can't step away and stay away. And when that happens, you can't keep a job, especially if you're a lawyer, you know, and you're in the public eye, and he just simply could never keep a job. And so Amelia was raised in the home of her grandparents, her maternal grandparents. This is the home in Atchison, Kansas. This is actually the house, and we know that. They're very proud of the fact that she was raised here because they turned the grandparents' house into a museum.
Oh my.
All right, so and that's not the only museum in Atchison, Kansas. There's another one there too, but they turned the family home into a museum. And so there's reconciliations, and then there's split-ups, and then there's reconciliations, and then there's split-ups. During one of these reconciliations, Amelia gets a little sister. So she has a little sister, she's a few years younger, and her name is Muriel. And the girl's childhood is fairly well documented. Because the dad can't keep a job, they move around a lot. The only stability is the grandparents in Kansas. So they're pretty much raised there. But they're raised by progressive people. So the family's progressive. And these two little girls are described as tomboys. Well, this is not discouraged. This is not discouraged. Here's the two little girls. There they are. See that dog? That dog looks like a lamb.
Yes.
Is that a dog or a lamb?
Lamb?
A lamb, I think.
Is that a lamb
It looks like.
with a collar on it?
Yeah.
All right, well, anyways, I was a little...
It's a toy.
Yes, I was just a little confused by that. So there are the two little girls. There's Amelia and Muriel, and they want to play sports. All right, they're encouraged to do that. The two little girls, it said that one year for Christmas, they asked Santa for a football. So they got it. So they were very encouraged to pursue their desires and to not conform to what society expected of them. So you will see Amelia with a bow in her hair, all right? But that was only for picture day. All right, that was only for picture day, because other than that, if she wanted to play sports with the boys, the mom, the dad, and the grandparents allowed the girls to wear pants. They didn't, all other girls had to go out and play in dresses. They were allowed to wear pants. I have another school picture, look at this. All right, so they do the thing they're supposed to do for picture day. They put a bow in her hair and everything. And this is a painting, that's a painting. But they're perfectly free to go out and do whatever it is that they want to do. And what these girls want to do is they want to get into sports. They want to go out and play and get themselves dirty and scrape their knees, and they're completely encouraged to do that. Why would they be completely encouraged to do that at the turn of the century? What is going on? Why are these little girls, what?
The Wright brothers?
Yes, but it's a really super exciting time, right at the turn of the century.
Is that when the flappers were there?
Oh, they're coming up. They're in the 1920s. But what we have going on right now is,
Oh, women's
yes.
That's what's going on.
Yes. This is what's going on, okay? Part of the suffrage is clamping down on men that do what?
Drink.
Drink. Exactly. Yes. That's part of the movement. All right? Because what's happening? The men are spending their money on alcohol, and the family is suffering. So women are strongly complaining about that. The family's really suffering because of this. And so the Earhart family is what? They're right in the middle of this. And they're experiencing that exact thing, aren't they? All right? They can't settle down. They're constantly on the move. It's because the father is drinking, can't stop drinking, and therefore cannot keep a job. And so the family is suffering. In fact, if Amy Earhart, the mother, if she weren't from a well-off family, they'd really be suffering, wouldn't they? But she has that safety net. All right, so we've got the women's movement, and the women are pursuing the right to what? To vote, yes. So this is a very powerful social movement that's happening at that time. Do you think that Amelia and Muriel are being affected by that?
Yes.
Sure, yes, they're being very, very affected by that, especially since what happens?
Suffrage, we went.
Look, I found one from the Lowell Sun.
Wow.
I got a whole bunch. I found a whole bunch of them. I couldn't find one from New Hampshire, but I found the Lowell Sun, so I thought I would put that up there for you. All right, so it's successful. So things are going in the right direction. All right, and so these young women like Amelia and Muriel, they're feeling like they might have a future, that they could also pick up the ball and forward change for women, and that's exactly what they do. That is exactly what they do, okay? So now, Amelia, she's suffering from this tempestuous marriage. She loves her father. She loves him. She admires him. When he's sober, remember, he's intelligent, he's articulate. She's an avid reader, and so he's the one that is making suggestions for books, and she loves him. She loves her mother too, but she loves her father. And this is really hard on her. And you can see that this has affected her. She kind of stalls. She stalls out, and she stalls out every time she tries something. And she's having a rough time. When she graduates high school, she decides that she's going to be a nurse. She wants to go into medicine, and she becomes a nurse's aide. And here she is as a nurse's aide, and it's a good thing that we've got nurses, because there's something else huge going on at this time. What?
World War II.
World War I, exactly. World War I is going on. And for the very first time, what do we have as a weapon of war?
Airplane.
Airplanes. So let's think about this. The first successful flight is in 1903. Let's just wrap our heads around this. World War I is when?
14.
1914. Okay?
That's 11 years.
How long is it between the first flight and the time that we send
Yeah.
people
It's not long.
in planes to fight wars in the sky? It is mind-boggling.
It is.
It's mind-boggling when you think about that. These planes, the planes that they had during World War I, they are flimsy tin cans, is what they are. They are just these flimsy tin cans. And that's what they're sending people up in the air to go into battle, with. This is footage.
Now, did the other side have those too?
Oh, yeah, the Red Baron. Don't you know about the Red Baron? All right, yes, the other side had it too, everybody had it. All right, so now you've got like a new kind of patient. All right, so you've got soldiers coming into the hospitals during World War I, and some of their wounds are not from field of combat. What are they from?
Oh, he fell out of
Dropping
the
out of the
Crash, yes. Crashes, yeah, parachuting out but breaking your bones. And there's a different kind of patient. Now we've got Amelia Earhart is a nurse at this time, and she's helping out through the war, and she is meeting a whole new breed of people. Who are they?
Pilots.
Pilots, exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. And she's there and she's helping them as a nurse, but she's listening to their stories. She's hearing them tell the great stories about being up in the air. So this whole time at the turn of the century, there was so much going on. This is an exciting time full of unbelievable change. I mean, we've just got electricity, right? Think of everything that's happening at this time. It's amazing when you stop and think about it. I found a little clip of a dog fight from World War I. Want to see?
Yeah.
I don't think there's sound to this. No, all right. So I don't have to touch the volume.
Oh my.
Oh, he's on fire.
There's one going down the door. Wow.
Look at that fire.
It's a wonder they survived.
Well, a lot of them didn't survive.
Wow. And the guns they had.
Yeah, guns put on them and they just
Yeah.
got barely
They
invented.
did.
And they're standing up
Jeez.
in these tin cans, shooting guns. Powerful. Oh, it's amazing.
Look at that one come down. No wonder they were called daredevils.
But yeah, I mean, barely a decade has gone by since the first successful flight, and then now you've got pilots in war. All right, so this is what's going on with Amelia Earhart, and again, she's just she's kind of, adrift. She doesn't know what to do. She has lots of starts and stops. She's had an awful lot of jobs. She's tried some different things, and then it's just not for her. It's just not for her. She goes to Columbia, and she's pre-med, but she drops out because she feels like that's just not for her. And so she's really discouraged and upset with herself, and she decides to go. Her mother and father now live in California. This is a time when they're together again, and so she decides to go out to California and try to figure things out. And that's when her dad, to cheer her up, wants to take her to an air show. Now, air shows were a big thing. This is after the war. All right, so we've got these airplanes, they're brand new, wonderful things, and so you want to capitalize on that, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got air shows, so he decides he's going to take her to an air show. And I'm going to show you a little clip of what happened at these air shows. But before I do, I'll have you know that this is so brand new that there are no regulations. None whatsoever. There are 0 regulations. All right? So we have these, yes, they were hugely,
Flying over the people.
oh, wait till you see what they do. All right, so they're hugely popular. This is before TV. There's no TV.
Obviously.
All right, so everybody has to go to the air show. So they're enormously popular and they're happening all over the country. And one of the most exciting parts of an air show, have you ever heard of barnstorming?
Yes.
So you know what barnstorming is, right? All right, so well, if you don't know, I'm going to show you. Let's just take a look at
This
the,
way, the chickens don't lay eggs.
yeah. Yeah, the chickens don't lay eggs after barnstorming. Okay, so let's just take a look at the sheer insanity of what went on pre-regulations at the air shows.
Mumbo jumbo in the English language. And one of those incoherent terms is actually the words mumbo jumbo. Other confusing terms in this century are hold your horses or a stitching time saves 9. And what the heck is barnstorming? I mean, I've never had a barn, so I wouldn't know what happens to it in a storm. It's so confusing. Well, let me explain it to you. The term barnstorming harkens back to a bygone era in America. Its etymology rooted in a very rural form of entertainment.
It goes back to the 19th century days when theater companies used to travel around the country putting on shows. They would often set them up literally in someone's barn, so barnstorming born from that.
But the term's meaning later morphed into something else after the Wright brothers invented the airplane. Instead of theater companies, traveling flying circuses became the new must-see event and attracted huge crowds. The Henry Ford Museum's curator of transportation, Matt Anderson, met me to talk about the men and women who brought the magical wonder of flight to the masses. Well, that looks kind of risky.
It's a little dangerous, but that's the whole point of barnstorming. Aviation troops and flying circuses would travel to rural areas, usually set up camp at a barn, and put on these elaborate stunt shows.
And where did the planes come from?
Most of the planes that were being flown at that time were surplus World War I training planes.
Especially for people in rural America, this must have been extraordinarily exciting.
It was amazing when the flying circus came to town. There were stories of whole cities kind of shutting down so everybody could go out and see the show. And there was this pressure to keep upping yourself, to make the stunts more and more difficult.
What were some of the moves called?
The loop-de-loop is maybe the most famous, where you would just fly up and, do a
Love
loop.
that.
The barrel roll, of course, where you're rolling on circles, the dives, the climbs. Formation flying was very popular, particularly if pilots could get very close, almost wingtip to wingtip.
And what is she doing right here?
Well, we're looking at a wing walker here, and this would have been a pretty risky stunt, walking while the plane is upside down. She would have had a harness or some kind of a rope to hold on to, but there were some wing walkers who would go up there and make a point of letting go of the rope and just leaning into the wind.
Many of the most daring barnstorming flyers were women, including Lillian Boyer, Catherine Stinson, and Bessie Coleman, the first African-American and Native American woman to earn a pilot's license. Were there any rules and regulations, or was it just a free-for-all?
This is very early in American aviation, so it's really a free-for-all up in the skies. There are no regulations really until the mid-1920s. The Air Commerce Act is passed by Congress in 1926, and it's a direct response to the risks in barnstorming, and that starts to rein things in a bit.
The These death-defying performers were in fact true innovators, pushing the limits of aviation engineering and design while expanding the awareness of flight and its future potential to a rapt nation. What was the most outrageous stunt?
A great example is Charles Speed Holman, a pilot who in 1929 set the record for the most consecutive loops. 1,093 loops in a row.
I hope he hadn't eaten right before.
I hope not.
Who was counting?
That's a good question.
So these crazy air shows, you have people balancing on the wings of these rickety old planes. There was one I saw, I thought it was just too terrible to show you, but it's a woman, and there's a rope on a second plane, and she dives to grab she's on the wing. I know. See, I didn't want to give you a heart attack. That's why I didn't show it. So she's on the wing of one plane. The other plane comes up almost wing to wing with this ladder, with this rope ladder. And she jumps. And she jumps on the rope and takes off with the second plane. And these are women, but they got paid a lot of money. They got paid a lot of money, even for back then. Yeah, so that's why they did it. But the other thing too is you've got the women's movement, and you see that women really went for this, right? Why is that? Because there are no regulations. Nobody can stop them yet. You see? So this is something, this is a field they can get into because there aren't any stops in place. They can just go ahead and do it. Now, when she is at the air show with her dad, part of the attractions is that you can pay a certain amount, a couple of bucks, and you can go up in one of the planes. So her father wants to give her that treat, and so she gets on the plane, she goes up for a ride, and it takes her about 2 seconds to have this kind of reaction. This is what I want to do. She knew. Yes, she knew instantly. This was the thing that she wanted to do. And so she was super excited. She told her father. Her father, of course, said that he would help her out with this. So she goes to get her license. She wants to get a pilot's license. And lo and behold, she finds a woman instructor. This is her. Netta Snook is her name. Yes.
For real.
Yeah. So she's only, Amelia's 23 at the time. Netta is 24. So these are two young ladies. So they just instantly hit it off. They're getting along. And then this is how Amelia Earhart learns how to pilot. This is how she gets her license. All right, with the two of them, they become friends. She loves this so much, she knows that she wants to do this as a profession because people are making money from it. And so what she wants to do is, well, you know, you need to have your own plane, right? So she has to buy a plane. So she does. Yeah, she figures it out. She borrows money from Muriel. She borrows her sister. She borrows money from her mother. She's just borrowing money. She's working like crazy. And this is Amelia Earhart's first plane. All right, now we're still before color photos, but I thought you should know that not only is this her plane, but I had to give you a sketch of it too because it was canary yellow. Her plane was, in fact, she called it the Canary. That's what she called it. It was canary yellow. Now, unfortunately, so she feels like she's found, you know, her lot in life. She finally knows what she wants to do. But then, ultimately, after so many years, her mother and father finally actually get divorced. And when they get divorced, Amelia and Muriel want to help support their mother, and so Amelia has to sell the Canary. She has to sell it. So she does, and Muriel and Amelia go with their mother to guess where?
Really?
Yes! Yes, they lived in Medford, Massachusetts. Yes, for quite a while. They lived in Medford, Massachusetts, and this is the house. This is the house where they lived. Yeah. So they lived in Medford, Massachusetts. This is the house, and there is a plaque right in front of the house.
Oh,
That's it. That's the plaque in front of the house. All right, so now while she's there, she's probably super discouraged, I would imagine. She found her great purpose in life, and then just as easily she loses it. But something pretty wonderful and spectacular and fabulous is happening right after she moves to Massachusetts. Do you know what sensational thing occurred in the United States? And then I'll give you a hint. And Paris.
oh, what's his name?
Lindbergh.
Lynn, thank you.
Excellent. Who said it? Bob and Effie. Yes, this wonderful, Charles Lindbergh, the spirit of St. Louis. And what did he do?
He flew all the way to Paris.
He flew across the Atlantic. He is the first person to fly nonstop over the Atlantic.
Solo.
And I have a clip of that for you too.
Yeah, he's all by
I have a clip of everything for you today.
Bidding farewell to his mother, Charles Lindbergh climbed aboard the Spirit of St. Louis, the plane he helped design. At 7:52 a.m., Lindbergh set off from Roosevelt Field on Long Island, New York. His goal to fly across the Atlantic. Lindbergh, dubbed the Lone Eagle, successfully piloted the first solo transatlantic flight, arriving in Paris in 33 and a half hours. Returning to the States, Lindbergh received a hero's welcome and a Medal of Valor from New York Governor Al Smith. The journey of Charles Lindbergh carried him into the annals of aviation history.
1927, I think. Yeah.
Yep. Now, that was sensational. I mean, the word sensational is very appropriate, maybe even not enough of a word to describe what happened when he flew across the Atlantic. So there is momentum to do something else, right? Isn't that just begging for another challenge? Of course, you have to top that. All right, so the sponsors, promoters, now what they want to do is they want to have a woman involved in flying nonstop across the Atlantic. All right, and so there's this publisher. His name is George Putnam. And he's going to go out interviewing certain ladies that are pilots. And one of the ladies that he interviews is, guess who? Amelia Earhart, yes. And so now this next sensation is going to be, there's two pilots and a woman who is going to be Amelia Earhart on the plane, and they're going to fly across the Atlantic. She's just a passenger. Did you know that?
No.
She doesn't do anything. She's simply in the plane. She is simply just a passenger. And that's important for you to know. That's important for you to know because it really kind of dictates what happens to her and decisions that she makes going forward. So now she's in this publicity, I don't want to call it a stunt, but a milestone of having a woman cross the Atlantic, and she gains remarkable fame from that, right? She gains all of this incredible fame. It's the two pilots and she, and there's parades and there's great honors and everybody in the world knows her name. What? Yeah, she's from Medford, Massachusetts. Yep. Well, I think they're saying Boston because Medford is like 10 minutes from Boston. Yeah, she worked in Boston. She worked in Boston for a couple of years. Anyways, So she's feeling like I really just sat in the plane. I really didn't do anything, and she's getting all this great adulation from it. But George Putnam is he's gotten to know her, from this flight, and he wants to help her. He believes in her, and he wants her to be able to go on and do things that are more, I guess, respectable, at least in her mind, that she's accomplished something. And so he's helping her to do that. And what he's done is he's taking this opportunity of the publicity, and he has her booked for, this is the two of them together, and he has her booked for a series of lectures. So she goes around and she's giving lectures, and he also has her write her first biography. So she's written a book. Now all of this income is helping her to do what?
Buy another plane.
To help her to do something on her own. So she's going to prove herself. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. She feels like she's going to prove herself, and I think that's what's really important in understanding Amelia Earhart, is that flight, when she agreed to go on that flight as a passenger, and she's getting all this adulation, she did not feel like she deserved it. She didn't feel like she deserved it. And so every move she made from there was to prove herself. She had to prove to herself and to others. Now, through all of this, guess what happened between George and Amelia?
They fell in love.
He fell in love a lot more than she did. I have to say, he proposed to her 6 times.
My goodness.
6 times, and then she finally gave in after 6 times. But yeah, so they got married, and she let him know in no uncertain terms, that she is a woman of the day, a modern woman, and that she was not going to be Mrs. Putnam.
She was Mr.
And she would not be responsible if people assumed he was Mr. Earhart.
She was kind of
He was going to have to deal with that. All right, so she was not taking his name. So she really was. She was a pioneer for women. She was quite a pioneer for women. That was outrageous at the time. For the time, think back then, right? Yes. All right, so what they're working on shortly after they got married, what they're working on is a solo flight for Amelia. And not only that, but George has scheduled this for precisely 5 years from the date of Charles Lindbergh. Now, Lindbergh was called Lucky Lindy. Do you remember that? Do you recall that? And so George is calling Amelia Lady Lindy.
Oh, gosh.
So, all right, so he's promoting her as Lady Lindy. And so this flight is scheduled, and he doesn't give the airplane does not have a name. You know how the other one was called Friendship?
Yeah.
This doesn't have a name because he wants only her name to be in the papers.
Okay.
And nothing else. So this plane and this flight doesn't have a name. It's just Amelia Earhart. And so on May 20th, exactly 5 years after Lindbergh, she does the same thing, and she is a sensation. Look at that. Look at the people there for her.
Yeah.
Yep. So she takes off, she crosses the Atlantic solo, and she makes it. She was supposed to land in Paris. She didn't quite land where she was supposed to, but hey, close enough. All right, she crossed, close enough. All right, and then this brings her even more adulation. You want to see some of the honors that she received?
some 5 years before you took off. Colonel Lindbergh made his solo flight across the Atlantic and coined the aeronautical we, that it remained of the masculine gender for some 5 years thereafter until you took off. And it seems to me as if you have at last cleaned up that aeronautical we and taken the sex out of it. Miss Earhart, you are truly and indeed welcome in the city of New York.
Earhart. It gives me a very great deal of pleasure to present you with this very conferred medal. All of America is proud of you and your performance.
I do thank you sincerely. I fear my exploit was not worth so great an honor.
Do you hear what she said there? She said, I thank you sincerely, but I feel like my exploit does not deserve so great an honor. And you hear this in her. You hear this in her. She's trying to make up for that initial feeling that she got when she got all this adulation when she felt like she hadn't done anything. And so she keeps trying to prove herself. And so after she does this, which is incredible, it's remarkable, she flies solo across, whether you're a man or a woman, it's just as remarkable, across the Atlantic Ocean in this newfangled thing, dangerous thing. So now she writes her second book. She puts out her second book, and she is going to go on and she's going to break all kinds of records, and I've put them up here as large as I possibly can for you. These are the records and achievements that this woman has accomplished. So she's done all these things. She just keeps achieving, and do you think she's satisfied?
Never.
Still not good enough. Still not good enough. So what does she decide is the only thing that's ever going to be good enough?
Around the world.
Around the world.
She has to fly around the world, and she's going to fly near the equator. She wants to fly at the equator, and so now she and George are preparing for her to do this. It's going to be her last. This is the last thing she's going to do, and then she's going to retire from this kind of thing. This is her flight plan. All right, this is what she's going to do, and George is in charge of setting up all the stops and the stations to refuel and whatever publicity is going to happen on the way. This is her flight plan. She has to, in order to make this, she has to get a new airplane, and this is the airplane. Okay, the twin-engine Lockheed 10E Electra. Doesn't it sound like I know what I'm talking about? I really don't. I'm just parroting what I read and put it up there. All right, so they do. They buy this. It was the latest and greatest. It was the best at the time. All right, but she still needed a navigator, and this is her navigator, Fred Noonan. All right, so they're going to take off, and they're going to take off from Oakland, California is their starting point. The first time they set off is in March. It was on March 17th, but the bottom fell out of the Electra. It fell out because it was too heavy. So they have to go back and wait for repairs, and then they're not able to take off again until May 21st, 1937. And here they are. This is the flight. It makes that annoying sound throughout the whole thing. So I'll just put it there. And that's it. That's the last time anybody sees her. That's the last time anybody sees them. When they take off, May 21st, out of Oakland, California. They make it, that's not true, I'm so sorry. They made stops, that was the last time anybody in the United States saw them. They made it 2/3 of the way. 2/3 of the way. And they're going to be entering into the longest part of their journey before the next stop. And that stop is supposed to be in Howland Island. Look at it, it's in the middle of the Pacific. It's just a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. At that time, there is a naval base there from the war. It was there temporarily. But there's fuel for her. All right, so this is going to be a stop for her to refuel. And what happens is, as they're traveling and they're looking for this little island, they're at a level where the sun is in their eyes, and it's also cloudy. So they're having a hard time seeing below them, and they're having a hard time navigating the way to find this island. The very last radio transmission is from her. She can send out, but she can't receive. She can't hear them. So they're in the cockpit, her and her navigator are in the cockpit, and they're able to hear her transmitting, but she can't hear them. So she can't get any direction from them. These are the last words of Amelia Earhart. We're on the line, we're on, but we cannot see you. So she knew that she was in trouble. She knew that she was in trouble. And this now is the mystery, right? Because all these years, we don't know what happened to her. We don't know what happened to them. We know that they never touched down. She's radioing saying, we're running out of gas, we're low on gas, we're running out of gas. All right? They immediately send the Coast Guard out. The Coast Guard goes out instantly, and they never found a trace of her plane, of her. The navigator, they just don't know what happened. They searched for days and days and days. That happened July 2nd, and the search and rescue ended on July 19th. It was the most expensive rescue operation in U.S. history, and they didn't find anything.
The disappearance of aviator Amelia Earhart 81 years ago remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. But this week, researchers revealed a new clue that may shed light on what happened to Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, as they tried to circle the globe.
Everybody expected a happy ending to the search because Amelia was out there calling for help and her calls were being heard.
Rick Gillespie, who has researched Earhart's doomed flight for 30 years, says he has proof Earhart crash-landed on a remote South Pacific island about 2,000 miles from Hawaii, and that she called for help for nearly a week before her plane was swept out to sea. Gillespie has located documentation of distress signals sent in the days after Earhart's disappearance, prompting the Navy to launch a rescue mission.
And it took the battleship a week to get there, by which time the radio signals had stopped. And when the planes flew over the island, they didn't see an airplane. Now, the airplane's manufacturer, Lockheed, had said that if you're hearing calls from this airplane, it's not floating around in the water because the radios would be wet, it wouldn't work. The airplane is on land and able to run an engine to recharge the battery, so it's on its wheels. She's made a safe landing someplace.
Gillespie says the calls weren't just heard by the Navy, but also by dozens of people who unexpectedly picked up Earhart's transmissions on their radios, thousands of miles away.
These are just regular people who had a commercial radio set that they listened to Little Orphan Annie on, but it also had a shortwave band where they could tune in foreign stations.
Reports of people hearing calls for help were documented in places like Florida, Iowa, and Texas. One woman in Canada reported hearing a voice saying, "We have taken in water. We can't hold on much longer."
And suddenly they're hearing Amelia Earhart call for help, and they're astonished.
Gillespie's organization, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, has also found forensic evidence that bones found on the island are almost certainly Earhart's. And while the official stance is that Earhart and Noonan were lost at sea, Gillespie says the radio evidence only strengthens his theory that they survived the initial landing.
This case is closed.
He believes closed. There are still some competing things.
So, there's been a lot of theories, an awful lot of theories. But I guess that's the best one we've got to date. So it remains a mystery. I wanted to share with you, in addition to the books that she wrote, she also wrote a poem called Courage, and I have that up there for you if you want to take a look. Okay? All right, so she leaves a legacy. She leaves quite a legacy. She's quite a role model. She's a role model for little girls and young women. She's a role model for people that want to just go be themselves and do their heart's desire. She was also a great humanitarian. Did you know when she worked in Boston, she was a social worker? Did you know that? Yeah, she was a social worker in Boston. And so she met up with somebody in her lifetime. When she became famous, she met up with somebody who also was a humanitarian. And these two together were quite a powerful team, and they are... All right, and it was very thoughtful of these ladies to have a friendship, because it's the perfect segue for me to tell you who we're talking about next week. Can you guess? Oh, how did you guess? All right, so next week we are going to be talking about Eleanor Roosevelt. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you then.